Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do.
Just what to do, just what to do.
If what you're feeling is really true.
Is it really true? Is it really true?
Just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geri Petito Show. Guys, everyone and anyone who knows me knows I am the author of I'm Not an Addict, I'm Just an Ass. I'd rather be a smartass than a dumbass, guys, because 32 years ago, I was a dumbass. But today, 32 years later, through the grace of God, I can honestly say now I'm a smartass. And yes, the word ass is in the Bible at least 40 times, and it means donkey, and that's what I was. I'm saying all that to say this, guys. We've all had the roughest few years of our lives, right? All over the world, not just here. And too many people, unfortunately, didn't make it, and a lot through addiction. So I'm a recovery coach, a nutritional health coach. All my services to you are free. Please, please reach out. If you think my book can help someone, because I do, you can go to Simon & Schuster's bookstore, Archway Publishing, BAM, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, it's everywhere. Or you can go to my website, www.geripetito.com, and please subscribe to the Geri Petito Show YouTube channel. I want to give a shout out to a few of my sponsors today. We have SOS for Life. They're having their second annual benefit event, Christmas Feels Like Home, held at Vinyl Lab, Nashville, Tennessee, December 9th of 23. Their website, guys, www.christmasfeelslikehome.com, and you can go to www.sos4life.org. Here's the thing, every single bit of their proceeds go to help children in need, and it doesn't matter what their need is. So please, please, I'm begging you to check out those websites, okay? Paula Ann, we love you, and people need to really take that seriously. So, my other sponsors, I'd like to thank Michael D'Amore, michaeldamore.com, www.michaeldamore.com. You can go to his website and for $1.99, download his songs. He's an incredible, incredible, incredible singer. And Brian Buckenfuso, we know him here in Mercer County as Bucky. He's a retired Robbinsville police officer, and he's running for Mercer County Sheriff. So please, if you live in Mercer County, we need Bucky in office. He will be on the show tomorrow as well with my guest here. Last but certainly not least, one of my big sponsors here. This guy's name is Anthony Hudson. He's going for presidential candidate 2024, and his slogan is People Before Politics. Not only is he a sponsor, he is also my guest here today. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
So I want to tell you I have John Brecko here with us. He also has a show on Hamilton Radio. Tell them when your show is.
My show is Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Next show we're doing is next Tuesday, September 12th at that time, Eastern Time if you're not from the East Coast. So definitely tune in. We'd love to have you. I'm having a couple comedian friends of mine on, and I'm very excited to do that show. I've been planning that one for months.
What's the name of the show, and who's your partner in crime?
So my partner in crime, who I brought on earlier this year around May, I met him in April, is PJ Moore, and she loves this guy. She wanted me to talk about him.
I did.
Impressionist, very, very funny dude. I actually showed them videos recently, and I'm only bringing this up because this guy's a presidential candidate, of him doing a Donald Trump impression.
Yep.
He's got like 6 of them up.
He's awesome. What's the name of your show?
Name of my show is Hot Tag Takes. Again, every other Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay, beautiful. So, to my right, we have the original owner of Hamilton Radio. We call him Doc G. Say hello to everyone.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Doc G here.
Tell them about Hamilton Radio and when you started it.
Oh yeah, we started about 27 years ago in actually in a basement in the living room in my house. and grew to this wherever it is right now. So we keep growing every day, and people like this, we try to help, like Anthony Hudson. So we're pleased to be here.
So in the back, we have one of the owners, his partner of Hamilton Radio, and also producer, videographer. The guy does it all, Ruben. And here's the thing, Ruben and I went to the Borders with this guy a few months back. But right now, guys, I want to introduce formally this guy right here, Anthony Hudson, because his slogan, people before politics, he means it. So now, Ant, take the mic, kid.
Well, Jerry, Gino, John, thanks for having us in studio today. We came down from Michigan yesterday to be in studio. We have this interview that we want to get out with the people today. We also have a meet and greet at Friendly's in Robbinsville, New Jersey, tomorrow from 3 to 5 p.m. If you're listening to us today and you're in the Philadelphia area, we're going to be in downtown Philly this afternoon, roughly 4:30, 5 o'clock. We're going to run up the steps that Rocky Balboa did. We're going to get some pictures, talk to some people, hand out cards, and get some of the sites in Philadelphia. And we'd love to see you if you're in the area. But I'm so grateful to be here with you guys. You guys have done so much for us, and we've been lucky to have you and Ruben join us on the border for the travesty that is the open borders here in the United States of America. And if you feel like the borders are not open, I suggest you hop on a plane, go down to Texas, go down to Yuma, Arizona, and take a look for yourself. It is truly unbelievable, everything that's happening down along our southern border, and we need to acknowledge that. We need to address that, and I know that we have solutions to fix the immigration problems in this country and force a faster blueprint for immigration in this country that will help everyone involved. And we've got a lot of things to talk about today. So Jerry, John, whatever questions you guys have, we'll get going with that.
Okay, so we all have questions for you. You know what? I'm going to start, all right? So I am not okay with the majority of things that are going on now in our country. And I'm having such a hard time feeling like I'm getting hopeless, okay? And I know I'm not the only one. I know there are a lot of people out there are feeling that because people contact me all the time. Bring some hope to us today. Come on.
Well, I put up a video on TikTok recently about some of the tragedies that are going on in this country and around the world. One being what happened in Lahaina, Maui, the fires, the pictures that we've seen where some trees are still standing, cars have been burnt, but tires are still inflated, car doors were shut. If I was running from a fire and it was barreling down on me and the ocean was to my other side, the last thing I would be thinking of is shutting my car door.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get out of the car and get in the water to save my life. And it's just ironic that every vehicle's car door was closed, and you have officials that are down there saying that the police blocked off Front Street so that people could not get away from the fire or get away from the fire. That's why those cars were all piled up on Front Street. Why? Who gives that order to block the street and let people burn to death in a fire? That is inhumane, and it sounds like there's a cover-up being done here. And I don't want to spread any conspiracy theories, but I think that this fire was started by someone not associated with a electrical line. There's just too many things that are going on. At one point, there were over 1,000 children missing. There were buses outside of the school. They canceled school for the day. And they're still missing. A lot of people are blaming a certain celebrity for these children being missing. I'm not going to mention her name. But there's just too many coincidences surrounding that fire. And while that was burning, people were neglecting to understand that Washington State had 3 fires. There was a plant explosion in Louisiana. So Louisiana was on fire. Alaska was on fire. Canada's on fire. And what are we doing about it? Where did these fires come from? Why now, all of a sudden, these things are just popping up all over the place? And where I live in Michigan, we had really bad air quality about a month ago. It was noted as the worst air quality in the world out of Detroit because of the Canadian fires. And doing some research, we saw a satellite image of 11 fires pop up all about the same time in Canada. So they were being set by someone in all those locations. And I don't know why Canada was doing that. They say it's to control the forest, to give life to the forest, reproduction to the trees and all that. But I don't get
Insanity. Okay.
It's insanity.
Insanity.
You don't kill something to give it life.
Right.
Right. And the big sequoia trees out in California in Yosemite National Park, they do self-burn those trees from time to time to restart the growth of these massive 300-foot trees.
But that many at once?
All at once, setting a forest on fire, I don't see the point behind it. But, and now, and Jerry, you personally, and I'm not going to get into all that, but firsthand that, I also said the other day, I said that the government is trying to scare us with the fact that COVID is coming back. And they were going to launch mask mandates in September with possible lockdowns and shutdowns in December. So this is a scheduled event in my mind. Last time COVID hit us and we didn't know about it, right? It started spreading and we started reporting on it. Then we started working on vaccines and mandates and masks and all this stuff. Now it's a controlled effort by our government. And I have put up personally on TikTok and Facebook where Kamala Harris has stated once we can control the population. Now, why would she say that? And then all this other stuff is happening.
I have to say something. I don't usually interrupt this gentleman, but I have to because I have to say this. Back in the 80s, I was in China for a whole month. I was in my 20s. I went on a health tour. Now, listen to me. Every one of the people wore masks every day of their lives because of their climate. I was fine. I didn't have a problem with it. That was control, and that's what they brought here.
Yeah, and I fully believe that our government wants to control us at this point. And it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on, Republican or Democrat. I don't think it matters because Donald Trump is running, as we all know, 91 criminal charges against him. He's also a spokesperson for the WEF and a contributor to the World Economic Forum. The WEF is the organization that wants these 15-minute cities, these freedom cities, these smart cities, where you can walk from one side to the other in 15 minutes or by riding a bicycle. They want to put cameras up so they can monitor who's driving and where. And if you get caught on a street that you're not supposed to be on, you'll get a government ticket. That's not freedom, ladies and gentlemen. And if you research 30 by 30, on Google, you'll be able to find articles where they're talking about decreasing the population out west by 30%. They want that land. They want that land for some reason. You've got the fact that California is telling truck drivers that your truck has got to be a 2009 or newer truck in order to operate within the state lines of California. And if your truck is older than that, they won't issue you a new registration. So you're essentially put out of business unless you go buy a new truck, which with the cost of inflation, these trucks are astronomically high. I mean, what used to be an $80,000 truck is a $140,000, $150,000 truck. And these small owner-operators cannot afford that.
Just repairs on a normal car is a lot.
Right, and they've even gone up,
Yeah.
I mean, the cost of life in general for everyone listening to this show, we've all been impacted by this current administration. Inflation is through the roof. Joe Biden and his team are more interested in what's happening in Ukraine. They're more interested in what's happening in Vietnam. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but on 9/11, Joe Biden wants to go to Vietnam to talk about climate control instead of changing the reef on the tomb of the unknown soldier, which is tradition by the president on 9/11 since 9/11 happened. And he wants to go to Vietnam to talk climate change. When are people going to wake up and understand that we cannot control the climate? Mother Nature has her own agenda. It's been changing since day one. Much like when a baby is born, they begin dying, right? Every breath you take is one less breath you're going to take. Every day you live is one less day you're going to live. The climate has been changing since day one. And if you go back and look at the weather encyclopedias, you'll see that in 1956, the temperatures in Texas were equivalent to what they were this past summer. If you look at the temperatures in the wintertime in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, New England, they are comparable to what they were 70 years ago. Putting everybody in an electric car is not going to change the climate.
I agree 100%.
It's not. If you want freedom, you need to be able to have entire freedom, or it's not freedom at all. If you take this bottle of water and it's full, the moment I open it and take a sip, it's no longer full. You have to think of your freedom that way. And if they want to put you in an electric car, like the state of California, they're not going to sell gas-powered vehicles after 2036 or 2030, and then no diesel vehicles by 2036. Where's our choice? It's my money. I should be able to buy what I want to buy. And the people of this country need to be left alone. Leave us alone. The government needs to govern the country and leave the blue-collar people in this country alone. Get the corruption out of Washington. Get the big conglomerate corporations out of Washington. We don't need their money when we're paying as high taxes that we are. So you can't have it both ways, Biden. You can't have it both ways, Congress. Pick one. I'm all for getting rid of the 16th Amendment, which is the legal taxation of our federal wages, because I think it's BS. I don't think we need to have that, especially when there's so much money being printed right now by our current administration. Our dollar's not really worth anything. What are we going to accomplish by telling everybody, hey, you go to work, we're going to take your money in taxes, but then we're going to tax every single thing that you buy outside of that? What are we left with? We're working for nothing. We're working for survival, I guess, if you want to say it that way. So why don't we work on common sense politics that are going to help the American people? The people before politics slogan becomes a lifestyle when we get into office. And what I mean by that is, like, so you go to work and you work 30 hours a week in overtime. My administration wants to make your overtime hours tax exempt. If you get a bonus check from your employer, we want that to be tax exempt. You are satisfying your tax responsibilities on the first 40 hours of your paycheck. If you go to the grocery store, when you go to the grocery store, we want to remove the grocery store tax on all foods, personal hygiene products like deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrush, women's feminine hygiene, baby formula, diapers. We want to remove the tax on those items so that you can take more money home from your paycheck and not feel the burden of drowning in debt because you have no money. We've looked at a living wage instead of a minimum wage, one that would fluctuate with the cost of living. So
That's amazing. I agree 1,000%.
I mean, if you set it, hypothetically, don't hold me to this, anybody that's watching, but if you set the living wage at 30% above the cost of living, as inflation or the cost of living rises or decreases, your pay will rise and decrease and keep you with the same 30% cushion. So you're never drowning in debt. But you have to be responsible enough to manage your money in an appropriate way. You can't just take that money when cost of living goes up, your paycheck goes up, and then you overspend, and then you try to pull the heartstrings that, oh my God, I'm drowning. No, you're not. You just screwed up with your money. So we give you a lifestyle to help you here.
I have one question. Do you have like a living wage and like a minimum wage set up? Is that what you're saying?
No, it would start with the living wage.
Okay.
Yeah, the minimum wage is the living wage right now, or the minimum wage in this country right now is at what, $7.25, $7.50 an hour?
Not
in
here.
some
Here
states?
it's like 14.
Yeah.
So it's 14 in New Jersey.
Like 12 to 14.
But in all reality, you need $35 an hour to survive
Yeah.
with the cost of gas.
Comfortably.
Yeah.
Enough.
I mean, it was 5 years ago you could make $100,000 a year and you were living pretty normal. You're living pretty comfortably. Now you've got people making $100,000 and they're losing their homes because they created a lifestyle back then based on what they made, right? They lived within their means back then. Well, now with everything going through the roof, everything, gas, groceries, electric, the electric bills are going up going crazy. Now those people don't have a pot to,
yeah.
They don't have a pot.
Go to the bathroom.
They don't have a pot, and that's what we want to try and do is stop focusing on Ukraine. I was watching the debates last week and a half ago, and Nikki Haley went off on Vivek Ramaswamy and saying, you don't turn your back on your friends, and you don't have a foreign policy, and that shows. You know what? We're not turning our back on our friends, Nikki Haley. We're protecting our own. We have to survive in this country, and we have to have representation in this country to take care of the American people first before we ever think about helping another nation. And with all the excessive spending and all the wasteful spending that's going on, there is enough money there that can end poverty and get us to two classes of lifestyle in this country: upper class and us. There doesn't have to be a poverty class in this country.
I agree.
We don't have to have people living in tents in the parks. You know, it's not right. We ought to be able to create housing for these people that are homeless, or these people that are struggling, or the veterans that are hurting. You know, we have got to think outside the box, and my administration does just that, because we're common people. You know, we're truck drivers and do-it-yourself, jack-of-all-trades guys. We're plumbers. We're bankers. We're people that struggle, everyday Americans that struggle, that have come together all across this country to help this campaign. And I'm not going to take the credit for this, but there is a woman on my campaign staff that said, why don't we open up the 537 closed military bases and put the homeless in there? Because every military base that we have has housing. They have barracks. They have electric. They have water. There's businesses that have been closed down. So if you want to rehab these people who are homeless and give them hope and bring them back to a normalcy in society, you got to help them. So let's put them in these closed military bases and offer them housing with the help of getting a caseworker that can help them write a resume, or how to interview, get them sobriety testing, or help with alcohol and drugs and whatever else is going on with them. Get them medical clearance so that we know that they're healthy, and give them a nice place to sleep, and then reopen those jobs on those military bases and put them to work. Reintroduce them back into society step by step. And there is a graduation from this program. When you get on your feet and you get established, you've got money in your pocket, you can move away from the base and secure your own housing, your own place, your own car, your own whatever. You can restart your life because the United States government was able to offer you the help that you need. And right now, I don't see our government offering anything to any of us.
I agree with you, Ant. I want to ask Doc G if you have a question for Anthony.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking at his TikTok, and I'm looking at all these things, but I did want to talk to you about the CBDC, which is central bank digital currency. This country seems to be going to, a lot of other countries as well. What is your stance on that, and what do you see with our currency? You think it's going to devalue the dollar and we're going to go to the gold standard, or we're just going to let everything just die?
I think our dollar's already depreciated. It shows. There's so much of the American dollar in circulation right now, and it's backed by nothing, right? I do like the idea of backing our currency by gold and silver. I always have. But you got to be careful with what you say, because there are people that have been taken out, so to speak, for understanding and believing in the same philosophy. But we've got worthless paper being transmitted all over the world. It has no value, and we see that here. The BRICS organization, they're trying to say, and I don't know if this is true or not, so don't quote me, but I've read articles that say that one BRICS dollar is going to be valued at 55 American dollars. I don't know, John, if you want to go hit that on my phone.
Sure.
Just hit the hang up button on there, the red one. I'm sorry. So somebody's calling me.
You didn't turn your volume down.
I thought I did, but
Mr.
just hit the
President.
red button at the top. Yeah, the red button. All right, and on the side there's a switch.
the volume.
You can turn that switch off on my side, on this side, the other side, my side, on the side of the phone.
Yeah, right here?
No, on the outside of the phone.
On the outside.
Yeah. Come to the other side. Is there a little lever there that you can switch at the top? Yeah, on the side of the
We've
phone.
got his phone also on TikTok while we're doing the interview, guys. So that's what was ringing.
It's
So
not on the face, Ruben. It's
we're
on the
trying
side of
to
the
get
phone.
that fixed.
Yeah, you flip it down and it'll have like a red line there, show that the volume's off.
It's off, right? I think so.
Okay.
All right.
But anyway, if the BRICS dollar is worth 55 American dollars, it's going to cause the economy in this country to flatline. It absolutely will. I don't even know why BRICS is important to the United States at all, because we have the resources to be an independent nation. We have the resources to be an export nation where we get the rest of other countries in the world relying on our products, not our dollar. And that'll go a long way with us. That creates a lot of revenue for us. But I don't like the digital currency. A lot of people say, well, if you don't like the digital currency, why do you have a debit card? Well, a debit card is still I still put my money in the bank, and it's a convenience to use my debit card. The way they're talking about with digital currency is removing the dollar altogether, and then the government has the ability to stronghold you.
No kidding.
They can.
That's right.
If you're a criminal,
More control, right? More control.
More control. If you're a criminal and you're not supposed to leave your county, they can set a perimeter around your county, and if you go outside that line, your digital card will not work. If you owe
Well,
the
that
IRS,
I would like to see with the criminals.
well, with criminals, but what about you? What if you owed money to the
They
I
don't
IRS?
understand.
classify
I don't wanna
everybody
be
as
in
a
the same
criminal
boat.
as long as you walk past that line. Go ahead.
They could do whatever
No,
they
it's
want,
terrible.
and
It's not freedom.
If you owe the IRS money, they can hit a button and bankrupt you at any
Yep.
time.
Yep.
If they monitor what you buy also. So if you are an avid member, supporter of the Second Amendment, and you want to go down and buy a firearm, they can deny the charge from your card. If you want to buy ammunition for that firearm, they can deny the charge. That's one way that they can control to get past the Second Amendment, because the Supreme Court has showed time and time again that they are in favor of the Second Amendment. No matter how much Joe Biden pushes to have certain weapons banned, the Supreme Court says no. And while we're on that topic, let me just be clear. An AR and an AK are not assault weapons. They are firearms, semi-automatic firearms. People want to blame an inanimate object for what's going on in this country, and I need you to stop. You need to use common sense and understand that the weapon is not the problem. The problem is the people behind the weapon.
Yes.
We have a mental health issue in this country, not a gun problem. So stop. You want to know what an assault weapon is? An assault weapon could be the camera that's filming us right now. If I pick it up and throw it at John over here, it becomes an assault weapon.
Even knives.
What I do back could be classified as,
Even a
as an
fork.
assault weapon, even if it's an elbow.
Even
Right.
a fork or a butter
knives,
knife.
right? Same thing.
and-
Everything can be.
Anything you can get your hands on to hurt another person is classified as an assault weapon. And it goes to the extent of even bodily fluid. If I spit on you in an argument, I could be arrested for assault with a bodily fluid. So people, you need to calm down. And I'll say it again, you need to calm down. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be acceptable in this society because it's wrong. Not everything is okay the way the government says it is now. It's not okay for a young boy to be confused to think he's a young girl, or vice versa. It's not okay for grown men to go into women's bathrooms.
Yes.
It's not okay for collegiate men to play sports against women.
Yes.
It's not okay. It's not okay for members of the LGBTQ to parade around naked on the streets in front of our children. That is not okay. That is actually indecent exposure, and you should be arrested and charged for exposing yourself in front of a child. If you want to be a part of the LGBTQ, hey, guys, you know what? I'm all for it if that's what you want to do. That's your choice, okay? You have the freedom to choose who you want to love in this country and who you want to marry. Gay marriages or same-sex marriages are legal in this country, and no one is taking your rights away from you. You guys walk around and say, oh, my rights are being taken away. No, they're not. Stop complaining about it, because you have the same God-given rights afforded to you as any straight person, male or female, has in this country.
100%.
It's a crying shame that people want to complain about things that are not happening. I understand the LGBTQ community had to fight to get where they are. We all have. The African American community fought more than anybody to get where they are. And I support the African American community all across this country 100%. I believe that they deserve everything that they have. I believe that the LGBTQ deserves the rights that they have. But your rights are no different than mine, and I'm a straight male. I have the same constitutional rights in this country as anybody else. So people, please stop crying. Please stop making an argument or an ordeal out of something that shouldn't be an argument or an ordeal. Live your life. I want you to live your life without government interference so that you can be the best person you can be, no matter who it is you choose to live with or who you want to marry. That's your choice. But stop running around thinking it's okay to indoctrinate our children and attack our children to get them to start thinking in that ideology while they're under the age of 18. Children need to be protected. They need to enjoy their childhood. They need to get their education. That we need to go back to reading and writing and simple education so that kids get it, because today's kid graduating high school is not ready for the world. They're not ready. What is it? Like 38% of kids graduating high school still live at home with their parents. They don't go off out of town to college because they can't afford it unless they get a scholarship and can live on dorms and have all that stuff given to them. Those who have to pay for their college, they can't afford to leave the state. They can't. So we need to prepare our children. We need to get them ready for the real world, and that starts in kindergarten, where we read to learn, or we learn to read from kindergarten to third grade, and then we learn to read from kindergarten to fourth grade, and then we read to learn from fifth grade on. And that's what we do. We find an article, we read it, we research, we educate ourselves by reading. And there are, more often than not, there are more children that are in, let's say, freshmen, reading at a seventh grade level. And a lot of that's because of COVID. These children have not recovered from the last lockdown, and they shall not, go into another lockdown. I wish everybody listening to the show and everybody across the country would stand up and say, I will not comply, because I will not. I will live my life, and I will be responsible with my life. If I get sick, I'll stay home. I'll take care of myself.
Guys, I want to say something about the mask. Please hear me out. Listen, I'm a nutritional health coach. What I'm telling you is a fact. Research it. I actually see people still today wearing masks, even in their car. I'm like, what's going on here? You're not supposed to wear a mask. You need to be able to breathe the air out. You're breathing in and out in a mask on your face, and that's why you're getting sicker, not because of COVID. Trust me. Please listen to everything this guy is saying. Okay, we need to get our control back in this country. Do not comply.
Don't comply.
I will not comply. I know that.
Don't comply. We're going to try and get T-shirts and hats made that say "I will not comply," because America, you've got to let your stuff drop here. And I can't say that on the radio, but you got to grow up. You got to develop your backbone, and you got to be willing to stand up for what you believe in. You got to be willing to stand up and fight for your security, your freedom, your integrity, your future in this country. And if you're not, if all you're going to do is sit behind a computer and type out a bunch of nasty comments and be disrespectful and try to be a critic, then just fade off in the shadows somewhere and be quiet, because you're part of the problem. I decided I was going to run for president of the United States of America because everybody is complaining and nobody wants to step up. If we don't change the way the elections are done, we're going to get the same result over and over and over again. It may be a different candidate, from the Republican side or the Democratic side, but it's always going to be a Republican or a Democrat. And this country was an independent nation in 1776. Why don't we have an independent president?
Guys, I want to say something to everybody listening, okay? All my followers, a lot of you even have met me and you know me personally. So my yes is my yes and my no is my no, okay? I want to share some things with you guys. Me and Ruben, the other producer that's doing the show here today, we protested in Trenton 3 times for our constitutional rights. I even met Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Okay, so I do work. I don't just sit here and talk and complain. I get up off my butt and I do what's needed to be done for your rights. Okay? When this guy called and said, you want to meet me at the borders, I didn't even hesitate, right, Aunt? I said yes. But I want to tell you about this guy right here. He's done more than our President of the United States has done. He's done more, okay? I want you to tell them a little bit about what you've done and how you met the First Lady. You can say that. I'm giving you permission. And who did not come to shake your
The
hand.
First Lady who has COVID now?
Okay, so talk. Tell them what you have done for every single thing that's gone on, like storms, whatever. Tell everybody.
So, as I just said, Jill Biden was pronounced positive with COVID this morning.
Go
So
ahead.
just let everybody know it is going around. And I don't
Yeah,
know if it's
right.
a cover-up because Joe Biden's around her all the
Yeah,
time and he
bull.
was negative. But anyway, so last year in August, I think it was late July, Hazard, Kentucky was flooded.
Yep.
And there's conspiracies about this, that the government opened the dam and flooded the place because they found lithium in the coal mines. And all the coal mines are shut down, or were shut down when I was there. But I went down to Hazard, Kentucky. I didn't have $1,500 to my name at the time. And we raised about $800 by campaigning and taking donations, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And we my fiance Bethany and I, who's probably listening, we drove down. We spent 4 days in Hazard, Kentucky. We spent less than $800. We helped 1,500 families at
right.
least.
That's right.
These are people who saw their mobile homes washed away by the river.
Right.
Their cars were washed away by the river. Some had homes with cars in the living room because the car came through the house with as fast as the water was running. And I met an old man, a little old man. His last name was Hudson, ironically.
That's something. That's
And
cool.
he was 82 years old, and I'm hoping I get to meet him when I go back to Kentucky next weekend. And he was sleeping out on his front porch, and the guy was no bigger than a twig. He was malnutritioned. He was skin and bones, and he had been sleeping out on his porch for 2 weeks. And we stopped to say hello. It started pouring down rain, and we were giving him food and giving him supplies, and he said he can't get into his house. So I busted the door open to his home, and the smell of mold and mildew and everything that was just saturated with water that was drying out, and there was mud everywhere. And he goes, I can't get FEMA to come get my trailer because it's 18 feet from the road. I said, what does that got to do with anything? He goes, it's 18 feet. They won't pick it up unless it's like 10 feet within 10 feet of the road.
What?
10
That
feet
doesn't
of
make
the
any
road.
sense.
Okay, go ahead.
18 feet. And
Continue.
FEMA offered him $187 for his 1.5 acre parcel that was up on a hill, a mountain. And in the back of his property, his family, 2 generations of his family are buried there. So he doesn't want to leave the land. He doesn't want to leave the land. He had lived in that mobile home since 1992. So 92 to 22, 30 years, right? He owned his home. Flooded. Now, we took a walking measuring stick, and we went from the tongue of the trailer, where the hook is, the hitch is, and walked to the river. Now, this was an elevated piece of land. We walked down 127 feet to get to where the water level was. Now, in his home, the water was above the ceiling fans. So you tell me how 14 inches of rain resulted in 137 feet, 140 feet of rising water, okay? The dam had to have come open. It's what we believe. But anyway, so I was with a group of bikers, of all people, Freedom Outlaws.
Yes.
They stand for the Constitution. They stand for freedom. They stand for the open road. And they asked me to go there with them. I went there. We started making phone calls, and within 24 hours, we had a Caterpillar track hoe out there, and we took turns demolishing this man's trailer. We literally tore the frame, the walls, the ceiling, the furniture, and we pushed it all out into a pile up on the road. And then we called FEMA and said, listen, you got to come get this trailer because it's on the street now. You got to worry about it being 18 feet off the road. Now it's on the road. You need to come get it. So they came out the next day, and they hauled his trailer. They scooped it all up and hauled it away, and I believe they got him a little temporary trailer to live in the meantime.
That's because of this guy right here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
They wouldn't have
anybody
done
would
it
have helped him
otherwise.
because he didn't have a car, and he was about 18 miles up the mountain, and all the resources were being done in town. people were delivering stuff in town. Nobody was going up the mountain. So we went up the mountain and reached out to those folks. We even put food out for dogs that were roaming around. We saw a guy whose mobile home was in a tree, in a couple trees, and we had some new tents that people had donated. So we pitched the tent. We set up an outdoor shower for him with running water. And when he came to where his house was, we were getting ready to leave, and the man just broke down crying that somebody took the time to go out and put up a tent so he'd have a place to sleep while his house was up in a couple trees. So we stayed there for 4 days and spent about $800, and Joe Biden flew into town while I was there.
Wait till you hear this, guys.
Joe Biden flew into town, rented a facility, had a Secret Service, had Air Force One, spent about $45 million and was there for about an hour. Had his picture taken, had a little chauffeur take him through a couple spots just outside of town, not as far up as we went, and he was back on his plane and he left. He followed me to Hazard, Kentucky, because I announced I was going. He showed up, he had his pictures, he left, and that was it for Joe Biden. And a few weeks later, Hurricane Ian hit Florida, and all of a sudden, FEMA, and there was a ton of money helping those in Florida, but still neglecting or negating the people in Hazard who needed it, who've been struggling for 3 weeks, a month at that point in time. Hurricane Ian just hit, and they had how many electrical companies pitching in their trucks, going out there to get the lights back on in Florida? They weren't doing anything in Kentucky. Those people were without power for almost a month.
Heartbreaking.
You have a question?
I did
Go
actually,
ahead.
but I wanted to let you finish just because we started the show talking about, Maui and Lahana. How's raising money for that going? Because I know you were trying to raise money for that.
We have raised some money, but the fact that it's Maui, it's expensive to get to.
Yeah.
We have found a travel agent that would get myself and 4 of my staff members to Lehana for $7,500. That's airfare, lodging, a rental car. It comes out to just a little over about $1,300 a person,
Right.
or $1,500 a person, and that's not bad considering
No.
that you're flying from Detroit
Right,
to
that's
Los Angeles
nothing.
to Maui, landing in Maui.
And that's nothing.
It's
That's
nothing.
great.
And we've gotten, I'm not going to disclose the exact number, but we've raised some money. We're still raising money for that because we feel it's important that we go there and do the same work that we did in Kentucky for those in Lehana.
Yeah.
Because they are Americans. I don't care if it's indigenous people
I
or
agree.
if they're immigrants that are now American. They
Americans.
are American citizens
Yep.
in an American state in a travesty area that needs our attention. And right now they're saying that they're not even like FEMA is blocking people from coming in and helping. They won't stop me. They tried to do it in Hazard, and we just drove right
Yeah.
past them.
Right.
A few months ago, this year, I think it was in March, Rolling Stones, Mississippi got hit with a F4 tornado.
That's right.
And my fiance and a couple of people on my staff immediately teamed up. We drove down to Mississippi. We started handing out supplies. We started cutting trees off of people's homes. And all of a sudden, there's 4 helicopters in the air. People are telling me it's Joe Biden. He's going to give a speech. He gets out. He goes into a school. And while they're in the school, his wife comes out along with our press secretary and Jean-Pierre.
Yep.
And I got to meet both of them. I got pictures taken with them. I told Jill Biden, I said, my name is Anthony Hudson, Jill, and I'm coming for your husband's job. And she looked at me and my fiance, and she goes, we're aware of who you are.
That's right. Yes.
And I think I thought it was amazing because this isn't the second time that Joe Biden has followed me somewhere in this country, and it's too ironic that this keeps
Yes.
happening. So he followed us to Hazard, Kentucky. December 22nd of last year, I called Joe Biden out, told him how I thought he was a disgrace to our country. He was un-American. He needs to acknowledge what's happening at the southern border. And since he won't go, I will go January 9th through the 12th. And if you guys recall, facts here, these are the facts. Joe Biden all of a sudden showed up in El Paso, Texas on
Yep.
January the 8th,
Yep.
a day before I got there.
Yep.
Okay? So now I'm in Mississippi the third time I go somewhere and Joe Biden shows up after me. And he had the audacity to say, I'm here in Rolling Stones, Mississippi, instead of Rolling Fork, Mississippi. And it just disrespected everybody that lived there. And that night, that was a Friday afternoon, that night, the people of Little Rock, Arkansas got hit with an F4 tornado. And that was about 4 hours away from me. So my staff and I, we went back. We immediately went to bed. We got some rest, got up early that morning, drove to Little Rock. So we went down to help Mississippi, and now we're heading to Little Rock. And because Mississippi was well organized, that tornado had hit a week before we got there. So they had everything going pretty smoothly. So we were able to hand out a lot of food, charcoal so they can grill, FEMA tents and stuff like that. So we were able to get some work done. But when we heard about Little Rock, my campaign manager, Kevin Duncan, lives in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So we drove there, stayed the night with him, and then we went into Little Rock, and the damage was horrifying. I mean, we're talking an entire community where this tornado touched down, hundreds of homes that were destroyed, and we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. We pulled up to a FEMA checkpoint. They said, we're not letting anybody here. I said, I'm a presidential candidate. I'm here to help. They said, they looked in the back of my truck and saw we had a pallet of water. We had tools. We had chainsaws. And they said, go ahead, go on in, and thank you. So we went in. We found a bunch of strangers that had come together from this storm, and we just started climbing up on roofs and cutting these trees in half, getting them off the roof so that the insurance companies could come in and assess the damages. We've got some pictures online, Facebook and TikTok, where I'm literally carrying about a 250-pound log that we had cut, and nobody could move it. And this kid goes, sir, would you like me to help you with that? And I said, stand back, son. Let me show you how this is done.
I love it.
And I picked up that log, and I carried it about 20 yards to the street. And we put it down and went back, and we were putting up a garage for a lady, garage door. Her garage door got sucked in, and while we were holding it up, somebody let go of it, and it fell and hit me on the head, and a bunch of glass went in and tore up my arm. I was bleeding all over her driveway or all over her garage, and I went in. She put water on it, patched me up, and I was right back out there, and we finished getting the garage door up. But this is what we do.
You know what? Wait, before you continue, why don't you give a shout out to Kevin and everyone, Bethany and all that? Tell them.
Yeah, a lot of this, Kevin Duncan is my campaign manager. Chris Bridges is my assistant campaign manager. He lives in Oklahoma. I got to go to a Republican convention there with Chris. Bethany is my I'm not going to say her last name. She hates this. But Bethany is my fiance. We live in Michigan. She goes and she works her butt off. She shows up where she's needed, and she just does unbelievable work. She won't stop. And then, we have other folks like Krista on my campaign, who is a phenomenal researcher. She does a lot of fact finding for us. She writes our press releases. She writes some of my speeches for me. Krista is amazing. And then, we've got a lot of people. Nelson, I know you're probably watching. Nelson does an amazing job up in his location in the country. And these people have dedicated their personal time outside of work, away from their family, to spread our name, to spread our message, and get things done, because this country needs a change. And I keep telling people that we, the people, demand a change because we deserve it. And these people that are on my staff all across the country, they're in all different remote regions of the country, have helped me reach 61 million people in 12 months. And that's not a big number based on the population of the United States, 337 million people. It's not enough, right? But going from nowhere to where I'm sitting right now, 61 million people is a phenomenal start. And I've made a dedication to this country. I've made an oath, and I am going to fight the fight until we get to the White House, whether it's 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. And if I get in there before then, I'll put an age limit on it so we don't get any more old people running for president.
And I'm a vegan cook. I'm going to make them a vegan meal for sure. So why don't we do this? We still have plenty of time. I'm going to give each one of you another opportunity to ask another question. Okay, Doc G, why don't you ask one more question?
Well, I'm looking at TikTok, and I'm watching all the things, and what I'm noticing is most of the people want to know exactly, number one, your policies, your stand on everything, and a synopsis, like what you stand for. If Trump does get in, will you stand behind him? If Trump doesn't get in, How do you feel about the new president? And just
I hope I'm the new president at that
Overall,
point.
how they can help you in your campaign.
Yeah. So my philosophy is people before politics. You know, we need to take care of the American people in this country. We have to be the priority. If you're going to tax us and you're going to take our money away from us and restrict us in all these different types of work, like the trucking industry or our farmers, our fishermen, then we need true representation. And I don't feel like we're getting any of that. So our focus is on America first and the American people as a priority. We have to fix our problems before we could be any good for any other country in the world. You know, everybody around the world looks to the United States for answers. But how stupid do we look if we can't solve our own problems?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You come to us because
100%.
you come to us for financial help or protection, and our borders open. We can't even protect our own country. You want financial help from us? We can't even take care of the American people so they have a better quality of life and can afford to live in the land of the free. So don't ask us for money.
And that's your kids and my kids.
And our grandkids to come. I mean, if we want to protect the future of this country, we've got to stand up and flex our muscles and take back what is ours. The government was always created to work for the American people. It was never created to control the American people. So why don't we just get back to that? Why don't we just get back to letting the people have the power and the people have the voice, and those that we elect are to uphold our decisions that we want to make. And if Congress wants to vote for a raise, no. You put it on the ballots and let us vote for it. If you're doing your job, I'm sure we'll give you a raise. If you're not doing your job, we should have the power to get rid of you.
There you go.
Because I've never heard of anybody getting a raise for doing a crappy job at work.
I agree 100%.
I also don't agree with the fact that these guys continue to get paychecks after they leave. It's been told that they get lifetime paychecks, they get benefits, they get their lobbyist money, they get insider trading. And I personally believe that we need to fight like hell to get term limits in this country. Term limits, 8 years, no longer than a president's term. And when you leave office, you no longer have lobbyist money. You no longer have benefits from the United States government. You no longer get a paycheck from a job you no longer have. You no longer get Secret Service protection. You are a private citizen in the United States of America. Go back to your old job before you became a congressman or a senator, and let's keep cycling in new people, younger people that are adjusted to the current times. Mm-hmm. You know, we got, who was it? Was it McConnell that blanked out the other day?
Yeah.
It was McConnell standing up there. They asked him a question, and he stared like a deer in the headlights. He forgot what was going on. That is a sign, ladies and gentlemen, that the White House and the Capitol building, both of them, have become the most expensive retirement home in the history of the world. We need to make our government younger. We need term limits, and we need to minimize the payouts for those who are in Congress and that are in the Senate, because it's not a career. It was never supposed to be a career. So let's change the way this country is being run, because they have the power, they have the control, because they're too big. The government was never supposed to be that big. So let's start getting rid of some of those agencies like the Department of Education. That's $80 billion a year. $80 billion. How many people going to college now would love to have new grants from that $80 billion that would allow them to go to college?
That's right.
Yeah.
Because we're never going to pass legislation that you get student loan forgiveness. You take out a loan of any kind, you're going to pay it. It's your responsibility. Because if you don't, you set a precedence in this country for discrimination between those who got loans for school versus those who got loans for a house or a car or a personal loan. If we're not going to forgive those, then we're directly discriminating against all the other people who have loans in the country. If you take out a loan, you pay for it. Plain and simple. You knew the terms before you signed the piece of paper. But if we had $80 billion by getting rid of the Department of Education and putting the responsibility back on the states, we could create more grant money and scholarships that would help people go to college every single year.
Beautiful.
Period.
Beautiful.
Period. The IRS. It is proven, it is documented, it is published that the IRS is a wasted organization within the United States. Each state has the ability to do the same job that the IRS does. And I know I'm going to make this statement and people are going to go crazy on TikTok over here, but 87,000 armed IRS agents on top of whoever else worked at the IRS. People are like, what are you going to do with all those jobs? Well, just like I told the LGBTQ, you have a choice. They can continue to work for the federal government by taking their service pistol and standing on the southern border and protecting this country, or they can go get a job at 7-Eleven. I don't care. They have a choice. They're not going to continue to work in the IRS and have an armed collection agency coming after middle America because they're trying to find money to support their war in Ukraine that we're not even a part of. We don't need the IRS. I don't feel like we need the FBI. I think we need to promote the U.S. Marshals and give them full jurisdiction in the United States and on indigenous land to help solve the crimes that are happening on the indigenous reservations.
I agree with that. I mean, we
think,
saw it firsthand.
I think we need to rewrite some of the treaties that we have with the indigenous people because the Navajo out in Arizona just tried to get access to the Colorado River because people are dying because they don't have clean running water. And the state of Arizona quoted a treaty from 1836 and said, you are denied access to the Colorado River. Well, I think as time has gone on, we need to rewrite these treaties so that they have modern terminology and modern benefits to protect the indigenous, their way of life, their culture, and their future. This was their land before it was ours. We need to find ways to work with the indigenous people so that we can coexist and work together in this country and stop taking advantage and taking things away from the indigenous people all across the country. I'm very, very passionate about being able to work with the Native Americans in this country because I feel like they have been kind of pooped on over the last 100 years, and I think that they are pretty much forgotten by the United States government. And if we can unite with the indigenous people and preserve their future, their culture is beautiful. I don't know if you guys have ever been to war games anywhere where you've seen the ponies painted up and they've got all their costumes on, the music, the food, the events, the running along and hopping up on a horse, with no saddle. It's amazing to watch these guys and what they stand for, where they come from, their heritage. And I think that we owe them their protection. We owe them their future.
I had a woman, Ohitika, 100% Native American, come live in our studio. Do you remember that, Gino?
I do.
And I wrote like a 3-page poem, everything. The Doctrine of Discovery. That is something you guys want to check out, okay? It's a documentary. It tells everything. All right, check it out. And the poem I wrote was called Peace Pipe. First of all, what he's saying about them is incredible because they need help. Okay, these people are beautiful people. To this day, they are still considered non-human, and that's heartbreaking. So check out the Doctrine of Discovery, please. I'm begging you, okay? And he wants to help these beautiful people.
I do, and I want to move the pipeline. I want to move the Keystone Pipeline off the reservation because, we went and put that in there without their permission. We violated so many treaties, and with the construction of the pipeline, it contaminated a lot of their water.
That's right.
It drove off the animals that they hunt for their game. It just affected them in so many negative ways, and we did it because we're the bigger foot, we're the bigger shoe, and they don't have the resources to fight the federal government when it comes to things like this. But if we could learn to sit down with the leaders of those reservations and say, what do you propose? We've got to come down out of Canada. We've got to come into the United States. We've got ranchers in Montana. We've got indigenous in North and South Dakota. Where's our happy medium? We need to learn to be able to talk and get the ranchers and the indigenous people together and say, where can we put this pipeline coming down? Because it's got to go all the way to Houston. It's got to branch out to Chicago. It's got to go out to the East Coast. And what are we going to do to protect the land, to protect the people, protect the resources, the water? We have got to learn to talk instead of take.
That's what the majority of that show was about, the pipeline at the time.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
It's crazy what we've done, and it should be a slap in the face to any American citizen in this country that does not make $200,000 or more a year at where we're at. It should be a slap in your face for all that you stand for your family values, your history, your future, your kids, your education. Even the young kids that are in high school now trying to go to college in the next couple of years. You need to pay attention because what's happening right now is going to prevent you from being successful. That's their job in Washington, to control us. And if they keep us at bay with fear, we won't retaliate. And we don't have to retaliate. We just need to stand up and vote different. We need to do things differently. And I know you probably want to close out the show, but I got something else.
We're not closing
the show
yet.
Okay, because I have
We
something
a
else
few
I want to
minutes.
talk about real quick.
But wait 1 second. Guys, everything that he is saying, I really hope you're really listening. Okay, because we need a change, guys. We need a change in this country. I'm going to let John Brecko ask you one more question, and then you'll have about 10, 15 minutes to close out.
Okay.
So, John?
Okay, so here's my question, and this is coming from somebody who's getting married in a couple of months, has been looking into the housing market, and this was actually something I planned to ask you that we never got to. It was actually the first question I had planned. But, you talked about it a little bit. You plan to use the 537 closed military bases to help get the homeless and veterans off the street, since those closed buildings have, you said it, electricity, running water, and everything these people need to survive until they get reintroduced back into society. You even talked about it being in steps on this show. So I have written here, you did say that in a post that was put out about a week ago, mind you, this was like when I was interviewing you, so it's been a little bit of time since then, and you guys weren't ready to unveil the policy just yet because you mentioned you had said to somebody, I can let you know for a fact that we have a designated group of campaign members that are working on the housing market as far as the lending and available homes that are out there. So you mentioned that in that post, but can you let us know any possible ideas for the housing market that maybe have even been bounced around, how you're trying to bring the cost down for anybody looking for a home? It's a little bit more of a selfish question on
Right.
my part, but
Right? No,
but everybody needs to hear this
a
answer.
lot of people,
Yes.
a lot of people are concerned about this all over the
Yes.
country.
yeah.
For a fact, there's a housing shortage. The lending is strict. They don't want to give out their money. Even programs like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they put restrictions on what types of homes you can buy within their programs. You have the FHA programs, and so long story short, we are still working on this because it's such a diverse topic, right? It takes a lot of digging and a lot of research. But what we can tell you is that the way that our credit is being calculated is a travesty to every American that has credit, period. There are no regulations on the credit bureaus as to how they can come up with your number, right? So, for instance, let me say that I took out a credit card 7 years ago with Capital One.
Okay.
They pulled my credit, dropped my credit score by, 12, 15 points just for the application. And then as you charge the card and pay it back, you build your credit back up, right?
Well, why bring it down in the first
Because
place?
they pulled your credit to check your credit. So every time somebody pulls your credit, it pulls points off of your credit
Okay.
score, okay? So
Yeah.
they pull your credit then. They pull points away. As you use the credit card, if I were to go down to Atlantic City and pull out $1,000 for the casino, they're going to reduce my credit score again for using the credit that they already gave me.
Okay.
Why? Why am I getting hit multiple times for something I was already given? So what we want to do is we want to rewrite the regulation. We want to add the regulations to the credit reporting agencies to benefit the people.
Okay.
Okay? So when you have something that's been on your credit for 7 to 10 years and it supposedly falls off, why does it take 7 to 10 years? Something could have happened 8 years ago. Somebody could have lost a life. You could have been in a car accident. Something could have happened to cause you to be out of work and not be able to pay your bill then. But today, you're making more money than you were back then. You've been making your payments for 2-3 years on time. Where's the congratulations for that?
Yeah.
So we're looking at trying to, reverse that and say that, certain things as they show up negative on your credit can only stay there for like 48 months.
Okay.
4 years to 5 years at the most. We also want to make sure that medical bills don't hit your credit. I don't see the point in that because you can make an obligation to a medical bill $10 a month, $5 a month, and they can't do anything about it.
And if you get into that accident, like you mentioned, it's not going to hurt you at least as bad.
Accidents are accidents; they shouldn't hurt you. Just like when if you have someone that dies and you get an inheritance, you should not be taxed on death.
I agree.
So we want to make sure that you're not hurt on your credit because you were in an accident. Every situation has a different story. Right?
Yeah.
So we want to make the credit reporting agencies more lenient to the people since everything is judged based on that number. And we want the housing market to start removing the restrictions on what type of home. Like I can't remember which one it is, but one of those agencies you can qualify, maybe Freddie Mac or FHA. You can't buy a modular home. You can't buy a mobile home through one of those agencies no matter how good your credit is. Because they won't do it. They want a foundation, and then they want to go into the home, and they're looking for something wrong to deny you that home. Stop. Just stop. Let them be approved based on their credit and the ability to make the down payment, and based on their income and their debt-to-income ratio. If you can afford the home, give you the home. Any homeowner, Jerry, Gino, Ruben, anybody that owns a home out there knows that when you buy a home, the first thing you do before you close is start figuring out what you're going to fix in the house.
Yeah.
The back deck, the windows, the kitchen, the bathroom. You're already starting to spend money before you've even closed the loan because that's what we do. We don't
what you're going to have to fix later.
Right. You know, and some people can do it right now. Some people need a couple years to do it. But you shouldn't have the bank or the agency that you approve through tell you, no, you can't buy this house because there's a crack in the foundation. Well, shoot, we just go in there and we'll fix the foundation in 6 months. What if we wrote up the contract that we would get it fixed in 6 months? That should be okay. But they are blocking people from buying homes. So we want to rewrite the entire industry with a focal point on 2 or 3 things: your credit, debt, your debt-to-income ratio, how much you make, and we want to make the credit reporting to be a little bit more friendly to the people because we're the ones that need it the most.
Yeah.
If you want to fix the economy in some of these communities, the banks have got to start lending money so we can spend it in the local communities.
Okay.
Buying houses, buying cars, motorcycles, RVs, boats, all these other luxury things. Most people can't just go in and write a check. They get a loan.
Yeah.
But the banks are pretty tight. So the people that I have working on this are veterans in the housing industry.
Okay.
Loan writers and mortgage brokers.
That makes sense.
And I have a couple of people that are excellent in research that are assisting these folks. This policy probably won't be able to be revealed until next year.
Okay.
Because it's so deep, it's so detailed, and to make the changes, we have to make sure that they are legitimate changes. I don't want to promise you something that I can't deliver. So,
but what you're saying is there's a blueprint, and it's
there
around
is a
credit
blueprint.
and debt heavily.
Yes.
Okay.
There is a very valid blueprint that we are working on. It's not as easy as saying how are you going to secure the border.
Of course.
You know, it's more detailed than that. But this group of people, there's 5 people in this group. It doesn't sound like a lot, but they're amazing. Okay. And at least it's 5 people looking into it when you kind of feel that nobody else is.
Right.
You know, so we will unveil that, and I think that is going to go viral when we do because it is people that are in the industry that know what people are struggling with to get approved to buy a home. No way, there's no reason in this country that I could go rent a house for $1,550 with the income I have, but I can't buy a house with a mortgage of about $900. If I can afford $1,550 a month in rent, I can afford a mortgage at $900.
That would only make sense.
Why is a mortgage always cheaper than rent?
There's no reason for that to make any sense.
None.
And that's a lot of the reason why houses aren't worth it right now, and why a lot of people are having trouble, including myself, including Abby's brother. He's been looking for the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, it's tough. And in Michigan, we used to have a ton of housing in Michigan, and now because of the rental market, people with money have bought these homes and renting them out, and they're charging. You know, in my neighborhood, a home will rent for anywhere from $2,300 to $3,600 a month.
crazy.
Who's got that kind of money to pay rent in today's economy?
No.
You know,
So-
and these homes will sit empty, but the owner won't sell them because they know once they get people in there, that mortgage to him is about $1,500, $1,200, or $1,700, but he's renting it for $3,600.
That's insane.
He's making crazy money. And that's
Taking
something we
advantage
should
of
look
somebody.
at. Maybe right now, for the first time ever, maybe we're brainstorming here, right? This is how we work. Maybe when a landlord puts a home up for rent, we should have an appraiser come out and value the home and then cap the rent at a percentage based on the value of the
fair.
home. That way that it prevents a landlord from saying, I'm going to charge you $1,550 a month for rent, but the appraiser comes out and says the house is only worth $70,000. You can only charge $600.
Yeah.
Maybe we do something like that. I don't know. I mean, I'll be curious to see what the comments say.
And that way,
but
rent's only about $900 or $1,000. That way, you're not driving the price up like crazy, taking advantage of somebody.
But that's how it works in the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
They base the mortgage off of the terms of the loan.
Finish your conversation in 10 seconds about
We're
the
good.
mortgage, about the homes. And the
I
rent.
mean, it needs more. It needs more work,
Right.
and we're not ready
Okay.
to unveil
Got it.
that. But that gives you a taste of what we're at least talking about within our campaign.
Good.
So this is what I want to do. I'm going to give you 10 minutes. So keep an eye on that clock, baby. You know what you're going to do? You're going to talk to the people now, from one person to another. And you're going to tell them why they need to vote for you. Go ahead, Ann.
Well, if I'm going to look right at you, I'm going to tell you that the problems in this country start with our election process. And a lot of people don't want to accept the truth because for your entire life, you've been told this is how it is. And it's wrong. We need to change the way we think. We need to be more open-minded. We need to be more willing to accept the truth. And when you throw words around like election integrity or election interference, you better have proof because you see what's happening with Donald Trump. All right? I think it all begins with the candidates. And I think that every candidate that is filing their campaign finance reports with the FEC should be able to get on the news. If you are raising money, campaigning, and traveling, and you're out there trying to get your message heard, I think it's constitutional that every candidate be heard. And with that said, my campaign staff and I are currently working to host the first ever third-party presidential debate. It's never happened in this country. But people want to hear from independent candidates. People want to hear from the third party because they're tired of hearing the same old from the Republicans and the Democrats. Nowhere in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights does it say that the President of the United States has to be a Republican or has to be a Democrat. There's actually an organization, and I don't remember the name of it. It's a 3-lettered organization that their purpose is to keep the independents off the stage. They are to block the third-party candidates because they don't think that our voice is valuable. I sit here before you today and I tell you that my voice is very valuable. Common sense politics, protecting the people, protecting you, protecting the future, protecting our children, using our resources in this country to be an independent nation, which is what we claim to be, but we rely on countries all over the world to keep us rolling. It's a contradiction. We have to research our candidates. We have to allow the candidates to be heard by allowing them to be on stage and debate with everyone else. So again, we are trying to change history with this campaign. I am fully prepared to file lawsuits against 9 states in the United States of America because they do not allow write-in candidates. 41 states in the country allow write-in candidates. That gives you, the people, the power to vote for who you think is the best choice. And there are 9 states in this country that force you to go left or right. That takes away your constitutional freedom to choose which candidate you want. So I am preparing a lawsuit against those 9 states. I'm preparing a lawsuit against mainstream media, because they refuse to let independent candidates be heard. It shouldn't matter to them what I have to say or not, because my message is directed to you, the American people. So why they want to hold me back is either because they're scared of what we have to say, because it changes the way they promote the news, or because they just don't think we're important enough. And if they don't think I'm important enough as a presidential candidate, they don't think you're important enough as an American citizen.
Absolutely.
So we need you guys to come together and help us. The third lawsuit that we're going to file is against the FCC. Gino can tell you that the FCC has compliance regulations that media companies have to abide by, and one of those compliance is that every candidate is to get equal and fair airtime. But I get no airtime from TV companies all across the country. Fox, CNN, Newsmax, News Nation, ABC, NBC, CSNBC, NBC, whoever they are, MSNBC, all of these guys. We have got to stand up and fight for the right to survive in this country. And I am here to fight for you. And I'm not here to fight like Donald Trump getting in your face. I did this, I did that, I did this, I could do that. This is a joined collaborative effort between myself and each and every one of you to stand up, face the tyranny, and prevail. This country cannot step backwards. We can't. We have to continue to push forward. Nobody wants a war. Nobody wants to see our troops go to war. But sometimes, in order to establish your dominance as a world power, you have to flex your muscle. And you have to have somebody that's willing to use the resources that they have to get this country to back to being a world power instead of a laughing joke. And I'm not saying I would declare war on anyone. But right now, as we speak, Kim Jong-un in North Korea is working on an arms deal with Vladimir Putin to get Russian ammunition in North Korea. Right now, as we speak, there are fighter ships, naval ships from Russia and China in between Alaska and Russia. What does this mean? Somebody is preparing for something while somebody else is neglecting to acknowledge or understand what the situation really is. We have the issue going on in Taiwan where China wants to take Taiwan. I will sit here today and tell you that the American people will not be funding wars around the world that have no American interest. Taiwan is the manufacturer of all the semiconductors. We need those semiconductors. Until we can become independent and bring those jobs and those factories back to the United States, we will continue to protect Taiwan and Israel.
Okay.
We will. We have corporations in this country that send their jobs overseas because they believe in child labor and cheap wages to get their products made. I will impose a 33% fine of their profit every quarter until they comply with bringing their jobs back to the United States. Any school, transportation service, college, or airline that imposes a mask mandate or a shot, I will cut their federal funding. We will stand up and live our lives as American people. We will live with freedom. And it starts at the top. If you guys will help us get to Washington, you will see representation, you will see policy changes, you will see an administration that will go to Kentucky when you're flooded, that will go to Louisiana, and Mississippi, and Arkansas, to the border, to Hawaii, to wherever. When the people are hurting, I will be there, whether I'm in shorts and T-shirt, boots and gloves, or wearing a jacket. Because if you want to be a leader in this country, you need to lead by example, not by luxury, because the American people are worth it. You're worth it. And we're not going to see any changes unless you stand up. So I'm asking you, please go to our website, AnthonyHudson2K24.com. Gino asked about some of our policies. People were asking about them on TikTok. We have 7 or 8 really, really good policies on our website that you guys can read. Some of them even talk about getting the government and CPS out of our homes and letting us parent our children how we see fit, understanding that some people can be abusive and neglectful, and we can handle that. But get the government out of our homes. Let's raise our children. Let's get back to disciplining our children and giving them structure so that they're ready for the world. Because right now, the way the society is unacceptable. And we cannot normalize this any longer, because that's where a lot of problems come from. We have to stand up, America. We have to take back our country, but we have to do it the right way. And the right way is through your vote. So please, register to vote. Cast your ballot. If you write our name on your ballot, it will count in every state except for the 9 states that I'm going to be suing, and I don't have all 9 of them in front of me, but I think they are South Carolina, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Alaska, Hawaii, and there's one other one, South Dakota. We will be fighting to get the right to be a write-in candidate in those states. We will be fighting for you. If you can make a contribution to our campaign, every penny helps. It doesn't matter if you've got $1 or you've got $100. Every penny helps. And I'll tell you this. I have raised roughly $10,000 in a year. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. $10,000 is nothing.
Goes quick.
But on $8,000, a little bit less than $8,000, I've gone to 21 states and traveled over 17,000 nautical miles.
How can they donate to you?
You can donate through Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal at Hudson 2K24. You can go to the website, AnthonyHudson2K24.com. You can make a donation there. We have our shop there with our merchandise. Just click on shop, and it'll pull up hats and flags like the one you see behind us, bumper stickers, magnets, beer koozies. There's a lot of stuff there. If you want to be a part of this historical movement, there's a link to join. You can click on join and fill that out. Somebody will call you. You can join our campaign. You can help us make phone calls, help us do research. And I think Kevin has one meeting a week on Sunday nights, I think, that are about half an hour long. Everybody attends. And we go over what we're working on, what we're doing. I attend most of these meetings, and that's another thing that you won't see, is you won't see other presidential candidates actually in meetings with those people. Our upcoming schedule, if you're in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, or somewhere around that area, we have a bike rally September 16th. We are going to be riding for 22 a day. That's a veteran organization where veterans commit suicide 22 times a day. 22 lives every day. 1 is too many. 22 is a problem. Mm-hmm. So we will be riding. I've got a Harley. I will be riding in that parade September 16th in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. You can reach out to me on my website. I can get you more details. October 28th. We're going to be in Hot Springs, Arkansas, with a crowd of roughly 15,000 people supporting the Second Amendment and our veterans. I will be the only candidate you will ever see give a speech with a weapon on my hip, because I approve of the Second Amendment. I am proud to support the Second Amendment because I have a constitutional right to protect myself, my family, and my property. So I will be standing there with a 45 or a 9 on my hip, and I will show my support for the Second Amendment. November 31st, December 1st, December 2nd, we will be in Galveston, Texas. We will be on stage with Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, and possibly Donald Trump. That is our big breaking moment with national news coverage for 3 days, kind of a small debate. And I am the only independent candidate that they chose to invite.
I might be there, guys, so
Jerry, you got to be there. You and Ruben got to be there.
Working on this.
You got to be the news media for
That's right.
for our campaign.
That's right.
You know,
So.
but everyone, listen. I'm in Jersey for a couple days. I never thought I'd say that before, but this is my second trip here. We're gonna be at Friendly's in Robbinsville tomorrow from 3 to 5. Please come out. They're gonna give fribble dibbles or
Free
whatever.
fribbles,
Free
guys.
fribbles. Free fribbles and free fries come in from 3 to 5. Let's sit down and talk one-on-one. Let's have a fribble and get to know each other and go from there. But if you're in Philadelphia, we're going to be in the area where the Rocky Balboa statue is, probably 2 hours from now, so 3 hours from now. If you're in that area and you want to stop by and say hi, trust me, you will not be able to miss us. But I appreciate everybody for letting me come on. I appreciate all you guys for listening. Please check out the website, AnthonyHudson2K24.com. And if you want to donate, please, $1, $3. Jerry, if you think about it, and I don't want to wrap this up, but we wastefully spend our money just as much as government does.
Right.
When we go to a convenience store and we buy pop and cigarettes and gum and candy and cookies at the grocery store.
Might have to do that before work myself.
Things that we don't need. The fast food you brought in here.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Basically.
That was Jersey Mike's, actually.
Jersey Mike's? Well, yeah, I like Jersey Mike's.
Let me finish this up. Okay.
Well, can I say one thing before you
If you take 1 minute.
Okay. Anybody that wants to donate to him, if you believe in anything he says, or if he's trying to help people, I think you should definitely do that. I just did it myself, so I just wanted to let everybody know, if you believe in this guy or
right
you
here.
want to believe in this guy right here, that's exactly who I'm talking about. If you believe in him or you want to believe in him, I think you should take a second to do that, whatever you could spare. All right?
All right.
Thank
so
you.
now-
Freedom isn't free, and we need to understand that.
So, before I say what I have to say to end the show, everyone, again, I'm the author of I'm Not an Addict, I'm Just an Ass. I'd rather be a smartass than a dumbass. Go to my website, www.geripetito.com, Geri. And here's the other thing, okay? I'm a nutritional health coach and I'm a recovery coach. Everyone listening, if you need help, that's all free. But if you think you can buy my book, please do it because it can help someone, okay? You can go to Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, anywhere. But I want to say something to everybody listening. This guy right here, first of all, I want to thank you, John, for hanging out with us. John Brecko again, everybody, okay? The owner of Hamilton Radio, Gino, Doc G, thank you. And Ruben's in the back. He's also an owner and producer, blah, 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 right? He's incredible. But this guy right here, I want to thank you, Ann, again, for coming into town. We're going to be back tomorrow, and we're going to have Brian Buckenfuso from Mercer County Sheriff, and him. We're going to all be together again. That show is, I think, 2 o'clock? Or 1?
1 o'clock.
That show is 1 o'clock tomorrow, and then we're going to be at Friendly's in Robbinsville for all the local people.
And then we're right back here at 7.
And wait, meet and greet, free fribbles at Friendly's. Come on, guys. Listen to me. Get off your butts, especially if you're in this area. Don't complain if you haven't done anything. You have an opportunity, all Mercer County people, listen, to come and meet this guy tomorrow, all right? Then you have a right to complain, okay? You can talk to him, you could ask him questions, whatever. But I am so over with everyone who hasn't done anything but feel they have the right to complain about everything. So come and meet this guy. Okay, please, tomorrow. Then, tomorrow night, 7:30, Gino?
7:30.
We're going to be back on the air with the WTF show with Tracy and friends. She's awesome, amazing, and we're going to be back here, Hamilton Radio in studio again. So 2 shows tomorrow, free fribbles at Friendly's. Come on to the meet and greet. This guy right here, listen, he needs to be our president. He's a regular guy, okay? He's a truck driver. He tells stupid jokes, okay? Listen, he's an
still funny.
amazing person. We need someone who is
You're
not
welcome.
a politician in office, someone who really cares about the people. Right. And this is the guy. And I'm just letting you know, okay? Listen, I know a guy, okay? I know a guy, and he's right here. Thank you, Aunt.
Thank you, Jerry. You say all the kind words. I don't get speechless often, but
But I mean,
I don't know how to respond to that. So
I mean-
I appreciate it. I love it. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna
mean
say
it.
I don't. I love it. But
because I hung out with you even at Yuma, Arizona, and guess what? I mean it.
the goal is to get people to look at me and say, that's the guy I could have a beer with
right.
on my back porch, or that's the guy that I could see at my dining room table. Because at the end of the day, we all have the same struggles, and I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Gas is the same for all of us.
That's right.
Groceries are the same for all of us. Rent, mortgage, it's all the same. It doesn't have a political affiliation. So let's put that aside for a while. I'm done fighting against each other as American people. I'm ready to take my fight to Washington.
Yes.
And I'm ready to stand up to
Yes.
the people in
Ready
Washington.
to stand up?
I'm
Stand
ready to
up,
do
man.
it. Let's
Stand
do it.
up.
We'll be in Philadelphia in a couple hours. Come stand with us there. Who knows? We'll give a speech on the steps. I don't care. But I am tired of the direction that this country is going. And as parents, soon to be parents, one day, you want to leave this country or this planet in a better position than you found it when you were a kid.
That's right.
And
That's
I'm
right.
sorry, but to the American people, we are not doing our job at preserving our future. We're not. We're just, complaining. We're running our mouth. We're trying to get special interest groups here and certain privileges over there. What happened to just being an American citizen in this country? That's what we need.
That's what we need.
Let's be Americans, and let's show the world what that really looks like. I think they would be scared
Okay.
if we came together.
We need this guy in office. Anthony Hudson for president, guys. People before politics. Ruben, take us out, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Love's the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do.
Just what to do, just what to do.
If what you're feeling is really true.
Is really true, is it really true?
Just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Love's the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.